16 June 1915, Lance Corporal Austin Frank Broughton, Northumberland Fusiliers, and Lieutenant Adolf Berry of the Reserve Infantry Regiment 246 are both killed on the same day. To find out more about what happened on that day, we went to the research center of the Memorial Museum Passchendaele 1917 at Zonnebeke. Can you tell us something about the evolution of the trenches in 1914?
Well, eventually, in the beginning of the war, no one was expecting a trench warfare, of course. And they started to make small ditches, what we call foxholes. Of course, there was a stalemate position, so they decided to deep out these foxholes, and it became slowly they became trenches. The first trenches weren't at all like we know the trenches nowadays in studies. They were actually just modified ditches. And you can see by the pictures of Christmas 1914 that they were actually full of mud and water. There was no fortification on the sides. There was no wicker work or plank boards holding up the earth. And this modification of these ditches actually started only in the beginning of 1915.
Nu, vanaf het jaar 1800 komt het kasteel in handen van familie Mergeling, die ook dan een adellijke familie was vanuit Ypres. En een taal van de Mergeling-familie trouwt met de familie De Vink uit Antwerpen afkomstig. Deze familie komt hier zich vestigen op het Hooge en woonde in het prachtige kasteel, zoals je hier achter ons kan zien. Het kasteel van het Hooge had een hevellengte van 100 meter. Dat was heel gekend voor een van de mooiste kastelen van de streek.
The first British soldiers to arrive in Ypres were men of the 4th Corps and General Rawlinson of the 7th Division and 3rd Cavalry Division on 14 October 1914. There they made contact with French troops of the 87th Territorial Division who were already in the town. The French Régiment d'Infanterie 290 came from the region of the city of Nancy. They were holding part of the front lines in between Polygon Wood and the Menin Road, close to the Veldhoek and Herenthagen chateaus in early 1915.
We're at the chateau at Hooge on the Ypres to Menin road, which became a central part of the Ypres battlefront for the rest of the war. This had been used as a divisional headquarters during the early part of the First Battle of Ypres. The building behind me is a rebuilt version. The original one was a larger and more ornate building, but completely destroyed in the war. When the fighting was at its peak on the 31st of October, the building contained the staff of 2 British divisions, but was hit by a long-range heavy German shell, which killed and wounded a number of those staff officers and really had an important effect on British communications during the battle.
Behind me, as you will see, is the Cambridge Road. It's that line of grass that we have here. And right down the edge there, you will actually see that there is Whitport Farm. Whitport Farm was actually a dressing station. The Liverpool Scottish were actually moving from there at the kick-off point. So when the whistle were blown, they actually started from that edge, the southern edge of Bellewaarde battlefield. And they were actually then moving towards the Germans further up here.
One of the units that was very active in this area in 1915 was the Rifles.
In the Second Battle of Ypres in 1915, the army again had to change its tactics with the advent of the poison gas used by the Germans in April 1915, and also the mining of the Germans and the British under places such as Railway Wood, Hill 60, Bellewaarde Ridge.
One of the men killed that day was Sergeant Alf Gobday of the 1st Battalion of the Northumberland Fusiliers. He played with the Tottenham Hotspurs in the 1913-1914 season. He made 24 appearances and played in the FA Cup, the semi-finals against Arsenal. 11 players from the same club were killed in the war, with the most famous one probably being Walter Toll, who was killed near Vouvray in France. Most of the time when we talk about the various locations where the Allied soldiers took shelter at Ypres, we think about the various locations inside the city. However, this location, the Hornwork of Antwerp, is just outside the old city between the Meenen Gate and the Meenen Road. We are at the Albrechtstellung, between the Meisengasse and the Geierweg at Geluveld. At this area, in early 1916, Grenadier Regiment 119 started constructing several pillboxes and aid posts. At the end of 1916, in December, RIR 209 constructed this one, known today as Cryer Farm. It is known as Cryer Farm because it was taken by the British on the 15th September 1917 by Lieutenant Cryer and his men from the 7th London Regiment. The reconstructed dugout in the Memorial Museum Passchendaele 1917 gives a very good idea of the underground life of a soldier. Fortunately, minus the moisture, the stench, the rats and the danger. As we have already mentioned several times, the mining warfare was terrible in the area of Hooge and Bellewaarde to Railway Wood. Several smaller skirmishes also occurred over the many blown craters, mostly in the period between 1915 and 1917. One of these memorials is known as Ari Grave. There are no gravestones on this site, as all of the men rest beneath the Flanders fields, victims of this underground mining war. Beneath this spot lie the bodies of an officer, 3 NCOs and 8 men of or attached to the 177 Tunneling Company, Royal Engineers, who are killed in action underground during the defense of Ypres between November 1915 and August 1917. You can support the Bellewaarde 1915 memorial in various ways. More information can be found on www.bellewaarde1915.co.uk.